All right, a very good morning to you. It's good to see you on this Tuesday morning, actually the last Tuesday of the month of May. So I hope that you're well this morning. Welcome to the show. My name is Winnie Lubembe, and of course, like we all know that May is Mental Awareness Month. So of course, we want to finish this month still with a conversation on mental awareness, but have a special focus on mental health in prisons, because mental illness is now being recognized as a major public health problem, and this is throughout the world, all right? And although no population group is immune to mental illness, some population groups are at higher risks of developing mental illnesses, and the prison populations are among the high-risk group of population for developing mental illnesses. So the big question is, what exactly should be done to ensure that the prisons are a little bit accommodative, just to make sure that we promote mental wellness, all right? And that forms the subject of our question of the day, all right? And that is, how can prisons be accommodative? And this is to promote mental wellness amongst the inmates, all right? How can prisons be accommodative to promote mental wellness amongst the inmates is what we're asking you today. So share your feedback, your sentiments, your comments as well on our socials. That is at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, or better yet, give us a call, all right? If you are formerly incarcerated and you're out now and you want to share your experience, as far as being in prison, then feel free to also share that with us. Our lines are open, so give us a call or share your story as well with us on our social media platforms. But the question is very simple: how can prisons be accommodative? And this is to promote mental wellness amongst their inmates, all right? So we look forward to an amazing conversation by the end of the show. So let me introduce my guest. And of course, on my immediate left, this is left, yes, Hemston Bugala, who is a psychologist. So good to see you this morning. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
You're well, yeah? Sure. Thank you so much for coming. And of course, I want to believe you as a psychologist. This is a very important month for you, right?
It's our month.
Yes, because we talk about mental, wellness, really, mental health in general, but different ways on how we can promote mental wellness. And of course, on my immediate right, we have James Osano, who's a legal officer, as well as a returning citizen. So good to have you this morning, James. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Karibu sana. Thank you so much for, first of all, just agreeing to come here today and sharing your story as well. But let me start with you, Hemston, before we talk to James, just get to hear his story a little bit, on why he was incarcerated and how life was in prison. Let me just start with you. Can we just briefly talk about the state of prisons, especially here in the country? There's a lot of stories, there's a lot of things that have been said, right? But can we just talk about that, especially when it comes to promoting mental wellness? How are we doing?
Okay, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. So first of all, mental health, live alone prisons has been an issue that's affecting so many people.
Yeah.
And it's a subject that has come up in the recent days. Mm-hmm. And I would say gradually we are making very good steps. Mm-hmm. So mental health has not been an issue in the past, mm-hmm. not because the issues have not been there, mm-hmm. but basically because people have not been having knowledge about them. Mm-hmm. And for us to start talking about them, it means we are making good progress. Mm-hmm. Right now, people are aware of mental health issues, mental disorders, mm-hmm. and trying to talk about it actually makes it even much better.
That's true.
So when you talk about prisons, mm-hmm. The guys in prisons are just people like me and you who found themselves there. Mm-hmm. And they have mental health needs just as we do.
That's true.
And to make it worse, mm-hmm. They have added issues
mm-hmm. when
they are incarcerated in there. Mm-hmm. So it's a very good issue to talk about. Mm-hmm. And I hope we're going to have an amazing show, discuss mm-hmm. The issues they have mm-hmm. and the available solutions.
Yeah. You work directly with inmates, right? When it comes to like counseling, offering some of the services, do you?
Yeah, sure. I work with Crime Sipoa, and we deal directly with inmates. So in the course of the show, of course, we'll see how exactly we deal with them, but we interact with them directly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'm really curious to just understand, so what are some of those common issues, and especially when you talk about like mental illnesses or conditions that are usually diagnosed, especially amongst inmates? I'm really curious to see which is one of the commonest, mental health condition that you diagnose, because like I said, there's so many things that are happening. First of all, there's that separation from family, and then there's that aspect of isolation, and then of course we all know prisons might not be the best place, to spend, a number of years, and and there's some people who also are put in solitary confinement as well. So of course that would, you know, predispose someone to several mental you know, illnesses, you know, and distresses as well, which we'll talk to you about. But James, can we just talk about, go back to what, 19 years ago?
It's 20 years.
20 years ago, to be specific now.
Yeah.
Okay. So again, you were incarcerated, right, in 2003.
Yeah.
So before that, can we just go back to how was life? What was happening? And then we'll come back to, you know, why, the reason why you were incarcerated.
Well, before, I can say that before I was arrested, life was not that all that easy for me because, you know, I had just completed school and I was unemployed. And, you know, for young people who are unemployed, usually they engage in certain activities that are contrary to the provisions of our law.
Yes, true.
So there's this issue of peer pressure, whereby you involve yourself with certain groups of young people. So such things actually led me to find myself in the wrong side of the law and ended up in prison.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And you said this was robbery with violence.
Yeah.
Okay. No, go ahead.
So I was, I mentioned I was arrested in June 2003. Then it was in Trans Nzoia County. So I was taken to Kitale main prison where I was remanded. Then during those days, we didn't have the current reforms that are underway in our penal institutions. So it was very tough in prison. So in the remand, food was scarce, bedding was scarce, everything was scarce, and medical facilities were very poor as compared to the present. So in short, it was very tough during those days. Yeah.
No, and I'm happy that you've mentioned the reforms that have been made, which I think we'll talk about it later as we continue with the conversation, like compared then and now, because you are a legal officer right now. Isn't that a really good thing, you know?
Yes.
And decided to change for the better, which is a good thing to hear.
Yeah.
But you're saying prison was tough. So did you have a family, like a family of your own, you know, before you went to prison, or you were just like a young boy?
Well, when I was arrested, I was a very young man. I was only 20 years old.
Oh, you were young.
Yeah, I was not yet married.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But so the community around you, right? And even from like your immediate family, like your friends, your family.
Yes.
When you were arrested, what was the reaction? Because majority of the times you see people.
There were mixed reactions. Some were okay. There were those ones who said that this guy should just stay in there forever, not to come out. Some were a bit more considerate. Yeah. So I could say there were mixed reactions. You know, as in any situation, there are always mixed reactions.
No, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always that part of stigma as well, like you're saying.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some people who say he should never, ever, ever come out and let him stay there,
Yes.
you know, forever. So hearing such statements, you know, what did that do to you?
It affected me, of course, mentally, because, well, you know, when you have certain friends, when you are out, you are a free man, you have got very many friends, but once you get into a situation like that one, these friends disappear.
Yeah.
You just vanish here. You just, even if you try to maybe call them, they don't respond. Some even tell you, oh, we are coming to see, but they never come. So you see this one can affect you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I need to understand from you. So describe to us like the first day, you know, or first week or the first month in prison. How was that like for you? Because you were a free man, right?
Yes.
But then again, you found yourself on the wrong side of the law, and then you were remanded, right? Yeah. So of course it was different. The transition is different, right?
Yes.
Because you're a free man, you're used to, you know, doing things your own way and all those things. This provision of some of the things that you needed. But then again, so here you are remanded. So would you describe to us like the first night, the first week, or you know, the first month in prison? How was that like?
Well, you know, before my arrest, I used to hear that in prison people just get locked in, they never come out, they never even to speak to other people, they're isolated, such things. So when I was arrested, my first day in the police cell, to be specific, I began seeing such things because we were being locked in 24 hours, coming out, even, okay, sometimes being woken up at midnight to be counted. Yeah, so it was very tough for me on the first day because, so, well, I saw that maybe my life now is just finished. And yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes.
So, and you are in for, how long were you in for?
I was in for 19 years.
19 years.
Yes.
All right. We'll come back to you to understand. So then how were you able to, you know, at some point, sort of like survive, you know, the 19 years and even coming out? How was, excuse me, how was that for you? But Hemston, can we just talk about, first of all, that transition and what it does to people? Because like he said, there are sometimes mixed reactions when people hear, oh, so this one has been incarcerated. There's usually a lot of mixed reactions. Some people would be happy that, you know, someone is incarcerated, and others would try and offer support as much as they can. But then again, for this person who is incarcerated, can we just talk about that transition and what it can do to a person's mental health?
Okay. As you've said, there are always mixed reactions, and realize to the individual, there's nothing like mixed reactions. Negative feelings prevail. This person is used to a different life, and now they're going to live a different life, and it's basically a tougher life than that they were used to. So this person, first of all, is experiencing denial. They don't believe that this is happening, because last week I was free, this week I'm not free. I was close to my family, I'm no longer close to my family. So they'll definitely experience negative feelings, feelings of sadness, anger, irritability. They blame themselves, blame people around them, and it's basically a tough situation. So this person will, as I've said, they have negative feelings. They'll find themselves blaming their own selves. I feel like I was responsible for this. I feel like I shouldn't be here. So it's a very difficult moment, and as he has shared, it's never easy.
No,
very, very
absolutely
difficult.
can never be easy. And given the way, you know, our prisons are, I'm happy that he mentioned there have been, you know, reforms over time, which is a good thing to hear. But at the same time, back then, of course, it's tough. The conditions are tough, you know. It's like you have a structured way of what time you have your bills. I mean, he said, "Namsho sasita usiku" for counting. The people in there might not be as accommodative as, you know, the people around you and all those things. So it can be difficult, absolutely, for one to sort of like adapt, right? So having interacted with, you know, most inmates, what is it that you would say is one of the common mental illnesses that, you know, you have seen amongst inmates? Okay,
there are three that stand out. The first one is major depressive disorder. That's a result of prolonged feelings of sadness. Now that this person is giving up, this person is feeling angry, they'll have prolonged periods of sadness, and it leads to depression. Another one is anxiety disorders, and the other one is PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Those are negative feelings that you experience after a traumatic thing has happened to you.
All right. James, did you experience any of what he's mentioned?
Well, there is something that he has forgotten to mention.
Okay.
He has not mentioned suicidality amongst the
Yes.
and that one is
very
much common in prisons nowadays, whereby you find that people have lost hope in prison. You know, after someone is arrested, maybe there are certain things that he was doing outside there. So once he is arrested, maybe he believes that now he will never go back to society again. So he just loses hope. So there is that tendency whereby people develop some suicidal moods.
Thoughts,
Actually, when I was inside there, I saw very many people hanging themselves in prison. So I even myself, I was almost tempted to do it. Only that the grace of God helped me. Because of prayers from some religious people inside there. So I never succumbed to that.
But you had like suicidal ideations.
At one time I had such. I almost contemplated doing it, but well, I realized that it couldn't help me in any way. So I just turned to God, and everything went well.
All right. So what is it that brought about those suicidal ideations? Because again, like you say, you saw your peers, majority of them would, have the thoughts and whatnot, right? There's ideation, and then there's the thought, and then there's someone who would go, go ahead with the same. But for your case specifically, what are some of the things that, prompted the ideations?
Well, some of the things that actually prompt such things include, well, there is the most common thing in prison is violence. You find that there is violence, not only from, well, this violence begins from the police station. Yeah, whereby after someone is arrested, you find that inside the police cells, from the police officers themselves, from those people, fellow people who have been arrested, you find that there is a certain form of violence there. Then once you go to prison, you encounter another form of violence from officers and from fellow inmates. Yeah. So this one actually prompts someone to think about, well, it affects someone's mind. Yeah.
Not true.
It impacts on him negatively.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you experience, violence yourself? And,
Myself,
and to what extent?
I experienced a lot of violence. Even from the very first day when I was arrested in the police cell, I experienced some violence from some people who had been arrested there. You know, there is a tendency in police cells whereby you find once you are arrested, since you are new, there are certain people you find there already who have been there for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, even 2 years, and 3 years have been there. So they just confront you, demand for money from you. If you don't give them, they even can fight you and such like things. So actually this one is very discouraging. I think the police or the government should do something about this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you experienced violence in police cells, right?
I experienced violence in police cells. Yeah.
When you went to prison,
even from the police officers themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, you know, during those days, it's not like the president was mentioned earlier. When someone was arrested, if you don't confess to having committed the offense, you can be tortured in the police cells. Not now, but then. Yeah. Yeah. It's because I just mentioned that there are some reforms that are underway, even to the police department itself. So there were some tortures during those days, whereby you can be asked to confess to something that you have not committed, and many people ended up confessing.
Oh yeah, so that so that you don't find yourself, like heavily beaten.
They can even tell you that you confess so that we can release you.
Yeah.
Then you think they are going to release you once you confess.
Yeah.
But it never happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the evidence. Now they take you to court with that one. They say he confessed. He did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So in the police cells and in prison as well,
Yeah.
what happened? Like, do you remember that maybe like 1 or 2 incidences of some sort of violence that happened to you that you might want to share?
Yes. Okay. Other than that one that I've mentioned, the police cell, once I arrived in prison, in remand to be specific, okay, I have to mention here also that I stayed in remand for 7 years before being convicted. I was convicted in the year 2010. So during those days in remand, during those 7 years in remand, I can say, well, the first year in remand was very tough for me. Yeah, it was very tough because okay, the most common form of violence that I usually encountered was from officers themselves, prison staff. Yeah, they usually could come during odd hours. Then they could just they couldn't even strike you without reason. Yeah, you have not done anything. You're just sleeping. That you are late. Why are you not waking up? Why are you sleeping up to now? Yeah. They just come and they beat you. Yeah, such like things. So without reason, actually. Yeah. Yes.
All right. And of course, having experience that, how did that affect you? Because again, like we're saying, you did not experience this outside, right?
Yes.
And then you get in, of course the conditions are tough, first of all, and then the people who are sort of like ideally should be protecting you and making sure that prison is safe are the ones who are turning against you.
Yes.
And engaging in cases of physical violence, verbal violence. Did you experience that as well?
All forms of violence.
All forms of violence. Yeah. So how did that then affect you, especially during the 7 years when you were in remand?
Well, during the 7 years, I can say that I was lucky because during after around 2 months, I met a certain pastor in prison. He was a prison officer, but he was also a pastor. So this guy talked to me and he advised me, he counseled me. So he told me not to actually dwell on the past too much, to think about the present and the future, and to think about my spiritual life. So actually, I took that advice, I turned to God, and this one helped me a great deal. So, turning to God sometimes can help you to deal with certain issues.
That's true.
Yeah. That might otherwise affect you mentally. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
I hear you. I hear you. And Jim, Hempstone, just spoke to James. So amongst the top three mental, illnesses and conditions, or 4, like you said, James added on suicidal ideations and suicidal thoughts, and even, cases of suicide as well. So, and especially let's just start with the first one, depression, you said?
Yeah, depressive disorders.
Depressive disorders,
Yeah.
right? So what exactly does that look like? Because, and is it easier to diagnose? Because, you know, this person has come in, they're trying to adapt, and of course they'll experience moments of sadness, you know. Nobody is happy to be in prison, really. So what exactly does that look like, and is it easier to be paid?
Okay, maybe just before I respond to that question, I would like to clarify that suicidal ideations or attempts are actually a symptom of depression.
Okay.
So there are people who, 90% of the suicidal cases that we have in the world are basically a result of depression.
True.
So I said depressive disorders because they are also been broken into several. But basically, what depression looks like is just prolonged feelings of sadness. There's clinical depression that has, you have to meet a certain number of symptoms for a certain duration for you to be diagnosed with. But the people could be depressed for just a month. So they don't meet the criteria to be diagnosed with the clinical depression, but it doesn't mean that they're not depressed.
They're not depressed, yeah.
So the standing out symptoms are just, prolonged feelings of sadness. Social isolation, you just want to stay alone. You don't feel happy around people. You lose interest in things that you used to enjoy before. Changes in appetite, some people eat too much, some don't want to eat. Those are the most common ones. And as I said, it's not easy just to diagnose because I may be feeling sad today and then tomorrow you see me happy. I may be depressed and smiling, so you cannot tell. So until you have a conversation with this person, talk about them, talk about the issues that are affecting them, know the causes, hear this person's story, you cannot just really diagnose them.
Yeah, you have to do like a lot of sort of like moments of sit down and offer therapy so that you see what exactly you're dealing with.
After having a conversation with this person, then is when you can see when did these symptoms start, what things were happening in this person's life, and then after that you can really diagnose this person is suffering from depression, and then maybe you can offer the right care.
Yeah, absolutely. That is required. All right, so let's take a break. But of course, when we come back, then we'd want to understand, first of all, with the reforms, which again, we still continue to see this on a day-to-day basis. How will this help in terms of promoting mental wellness, and especially in prison? But also, number two, what sort of support should be accorded to the inmates? Because again, just being there in itself is not easy. They're dealing with a lot. They might be dealing with like stigma from the people at home. Maybe some family members are not visiting. They're not talking to you anymore, and all those things. So it can be a difficult time. So then what sort of support should be offered at the same time just to promote mental wellness? Of course, we still have much on the same after the break, but don't forget the question that we're asking you today, and that is, how can prisons be accommodative to promote mental wellness? And this is amongst the inmates. There you go. How can prisons be accommodative to promote mental wellness amongst inmates? That is the question of the day. Interact with us on our socials at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter, or better yet, give us a call. The lines are open. We'll be reading your feedback after the break. Stay with us.
I am so excited to have joined MKU. The flexibility in the payment of fees makes education very affordable.
With over 165 fully accredited programs and the state-of-art learning facilities, you literally have the world in your hands in terms of career choice.
The learning is not only uninterrupted, but also supported through ICT. And within no time, you're done with your studies.
Join us and start your career journey.
Intake is in progress. Mount Kenya University, unlocking infinite possibilities. Mount Kenya.
Are you an artist or content creator?
Would you like to monetize your content and make passive income? Join us today on Skiza na Nation by reaching out to us on our social media platforms or send us an email at skiza@ke.nationmedia.com or call us on 0719 038 575. Skiza na Nation, supporting local talent.
One thing that I feel like is really not appreciated as much is the forehead.
Ukiweka finger zako hivi iko 6.
Easy. Sasa tulieka hapa because we don't know this suitcase, this suitcase. Monski is a hoarder.
This I came with the other day from States.
Shiro's
Ebugoja, Shiro's fast flu shot.
Monkey. How dare you?
Who's the other one? Toka hapo wewe. Huku mtaani kwetu kuna matumbili mob, tumbili twingi.
Love is making me wise.
Cascadia Apartments at Two Rivers Development in Nairobi with a Madaraka offer till 30th June 2023. Price start from 9.2 million. Call us today on 0742 342 722 or text Cascadia to 22365.
All right, welcome back. Glad you're still with us. The show is Your World, and of course today it's all about mental health in prisons. And of course today we're focusing on some of the ways that can be employed just to make sure that we promote mental wellness in prisons. Because like we said, it's not easy, first of all, being there. There's so many things that are happening in prisons. I'm pretty sure if you maybe know someone who has been in prison, they can tell you that it's not easy. And of course today we have James Osano here to share his experience as far as prison and what it did to him and how is he doing right now and some of the things that he might want to see change as far as our prisons are concerned. But of course Hemston Mugala, a psychologist, is helping us also understand some of the symptoms of some of these mental health, conditions that, most of the inmates might be diagnosed with as far as their mental health is concerned, and what to do in terms of what kind of support to offer. Because like we said, there's a lot of stigma and shame and guilt, from within and without that should also be dealt with. So what kind of support should be offered as well is what we are looking at. But at the same time, the question that we're asking you today, it's very easy. So how can prisons be accommodative to promote mental wellness? And this is amongst inmates. I can see a number of you on our socials who have a lot to say. All right, so let me just go through them very quickly. So Damat Divine says, yes, it is possible. I think one of the considerations to be taken accord is more visits and time spent with family. There's no correction without love. Just as they say, a parent corrects their child out of love, so they should get more engaging activities to do something with their loved ones once in a while. All right. And then Yasir Khan says, provide mattress hygiene, sanitation, good food, education, etc. All right. And then someone says, all right, I just lost that one, but let me see what we have on Twitter. Yes, so the tweeting bird calls himself the tweeting bird, says, let's at least improve the way of life for our fellow brothers and sisters in jail cells, give them good food and a nice place to sleep. All right, so keep sending your views on our socials. But again, like we said, if you also want to give us a call and either maybe share your experience or some of the ways that you think the prisons can be a little bit accommodative so that we promote mental wellness, also feel free to give us a call. Our lines are open, and of course we look forward to hear what you have to say. But Hampton, very quickly, can we just talk about, because we've mentioned a number of, some of the most commonly diagnosed mental illnesses among the inmates, right? So the question is, what exactly causes it? Because there's so much that is happening that there's some people who might adapt, others might not completely adapt, and of course witnessing and experiencing all those things might also have an impact on them even after when they're being released. So what are some of the causes for the same? Okay,
so we have to realize that some of those conditions are actually pre-existing before these people are incarcerated, while some of them are acquired after their incarceration. So, but the major causes are just the feelings that this person has and the environment they are in. So we say this person is transitioning, there's that life they were used to, and there's this new life that they have to start living. So there are changes inward and outward. So some of the common ones are things that are happening within this person, and one could be the loss of purpose. You realize this could have been a dad, maybe a brother or a sister, and now they're no longer considered as productive members of the society. In real sense, I cannot continue providing for my family as I used to. So I lose the sense of purpose. Another thing is my identity is being stripped off. So say I'm a psychologist today and tomorrow I found myself being locked in. Maybe I committed an offense and have to, face the consequences. How many people will still see the psychologist in me? Very few. People will change their view of me, and so I lose my identity. And once I lose my identity, that takes a toll on my mental health. Another thing is we're also separated from our loved ones. I was living with my family and now have to live away from them, my kids, my friends. Those are some of the causes.
And you rarely get to see them or even communicate with them.
Yeah, sure. And even if they visited, it's not as often as I used to see them. Yeah, sure. Also the physical environment. We've talked about violence. I'm pretty sure right now there's no much violence in prisons like before. But these are inmates, you find sometimes they even fight in their dormitories. Someone could fight you because of the anger they have. They struggle for resources also, So that violence also causes these people to have mental health issues because that's a stressful environment. Another thing in the environment could be, the walls. You feel like I'm kind of, restricted in a way. So it gives you mental pressure. Another thing is lack of treatment for these minor mental health issues. These issues always start as minor things. And when it's not attended to, a simple thing like stress management, if I can't handle my stress well, it's when it can grow to depression. So it's a cause at the same time, it increases my vulnerability.
Absolutely. Yeah. And like we were discussing this during the break, that some people even experience cases of rape and sodomy and all those things, which again, of course, will impact one in one way or the other, no? Do you want to contribute to the same in terms of like how that, because it might be you have witnessed or you have experienced. So can we just talk about then how will this affect a person?
Okay. That one I can directly link it to PTSD because that's a traumatic event. When I witness someone, going through such a tough thing, I'm human, I'll find myself feeling that pain. Say I'm the one going through that thing, I'll also feel the exact pain. So although those who experience at a higher risk than those who witness, it happens that this thing is too traumatic that it defeats the brain's ability to cope. And I'm still going to be experiencing those thoughts even after this event has happened. I may find myself re-experiencing that event. I'm just seated, but I feel like it's happening right now. Maybe during the night I'm sleeping and those persistent thoughts are on my mind, I find myself dreaming about the same thing. And when these persistent thoughts are in your mind, they deny you the opportunity to focus on other things. And it means your mental health will be compromised. And until you find treatment, know how to confront and deal with these thoughts, you'll still be experiencing those mental health issues.
That's true. And we'll come back to you then to understand. So then what kind of support should be, needs to be offered, during that person's stay? Might not be perfect, might not be like 100%, attended to every single person, but at the end of the day, they need support. Whether it's psychological support, whether it is, having their family visiting them maybe as frequent as possible, just to make sure that they are okay. But James, for you, so 19 years in, you were very young.
Yes.
Like you said, you were only 20, and 19 years in, and 100% you, of course, you've had moments where you're like, okay, so my prime, my youth and all those things, of course, is gone because you've spent most of your time in here. So did this impact you in one way or the other, where you found yourself, asking yourself so many questions, feeling bad about the fact that you're in here instead of being out there and being productive?
Yeah, it impacted on me because, entering prison when you are young, as I've said, I was only 20 years old. This means that staying for 19 years there means that I've come out when I'm almost 40. So it means that most of my youth, all of my youth was spent in prison. Yeah, this one also can be another cause of mental disorder. As he was mentioning, he mentioned some causes of mental disorders in prison. So I can say that another thing that he has not mentioned is terms of sentence. So you find that long imprisonment can actually cause mental disorders among the inmates, because once you are in prison, let's say for life sentence, or some even serving 50 years imprisonment, 30 years imprisonment, these ones can actually affect someone mentally. Yeah. So another thing that actually can affect someone in prison, as I've seen, I've always experienced because I've been there, I know it's overcrowding. Overcrowding in prisons, because most of our penal institutions currently, they are overcrowded, and I think the government needs to do something in order to decongest prisons at the moment. So those are some of the things that I experienced there, and I saw that they were causing some kind of disorders among the inmates. Then there's also this issue of, well, you remember there was this COVID that, COVID, during the time of COVID, the government suspended some prison feasts in March 2020. So whereby family members could not feast their people who are in prison. So this one affected many prisoners negatively. Some even actually developed some mental disorders as a result, because we have got people in prison who have got families outside, depending on them, wives, children. So if the government suspends these people from coming to see you, this one can actually affect you, because while you don't know what's going on outside, how they are going on, and such like things. So this one can actually affect you. I don't know whether they have resumed the feasting at the moment, but if they have not, then I can actually say that the government should do something to actually resume these feasting, so that
because they're important.
It's
but
very important.
during your time, I mean, how often did you see your family? Did they first of all come to visit you? How often would they come? How often would you see them? And how would you say this helped you, during your time? Well,
what actually happens when someone is sentenced for a long time, once you are arrested, sometimes people can come to see you. They always come. They come regularly. But as time goes by, they get tired, They get tired because, right now, considering the economy of our country at the moment, so they get tired, they never come after some time. So a time comes when you can even stay there for almost 2 years, 3 years, even 5 years without seeing someone. So I have known even people who have been in prison for more than 10 years without seeing any of their family members. So this one can also be a concern. It can be a cause of
because then it's sort of like you're isolated from your family, which is not good for anyone, right?
Yes.
So was that the case for you? Like, yes?
For me,
the first few months?
Even for me, it was the case. It was the case because during the first years in prison, they used to come to see me, friends and family. But
how often would they come?
They would come once a month. There is a law that, in the Prison Act, they say that you cannot be visited more than, you are only allowed to be visited once a month. So I can say that once a month I was being visited. But then a time came after some time, after I had stayed for 5 years, even 1 year could go by without anyone coming to see me.
How did that make you feel?
Well, I got used to it.
Yeah.
You have to get used to certain things.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you ever get used to?
Yeah, you can get used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But of course, that would impact you in one, because then you don't know why they're not coming to see you. Is it that they get tired? Is it that they do not have the resources to come see you? Of course, there's so many questions that will come.
It's all
right?
things combined. Yeah. The resources.
Yeah.
Some get tired. Some even lose hope that this guy will never come out. Yeah. You know, when you are remanded, they have got some hope that he might be released because you are still under trial.
Yeah.
But once you are sentenced, yeah, they hear that someone has been sentenced to life imprisonment, death. Yeah. So can someone really come to see you?
Yes,
yeah. Some even think that maybe if he has been sentenced to death, then he's going to be hanged. Yeah. They can't come to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
And of course, that's difficult really for everyone, and even for the family members really, just to hear that someone will be in prison for a long time. Of course, that will also affect the family or the friends as well in one way or the other. So the big question is then, how were you able to pull through, the 19 years, the 7 in remand, like you said, and then the rest? How were you able to pull through? What are some of the things that sort of like gave you the strength?
Well, once I got convicted in the year 2010, I was taken to a maximum prison. That is Naivasha maximum security prison.
Yeah.
So once I arrived there, this one is a very big prison. In EI, I think it is the largest prison in Kenya. So in this prison, there are certain programs that are going on there. We have got the prison industries, we have got the school program where people can join. So I had to take advantage of this program so that actually to help me push my time while there. Not just push, because I knew what I was doing. I knew that, for some inmates, they have got that tendency of thinking that once you go to prison, if you didn't go to school when you were free, why should you go to school when you are in prison? That's what some prisoners actually say. But for someone who knows what he's doing, once you get there, just you have to impress these programs. So we have got very many of them in the prison, carpentry, tailoring, and so on. So I joined school when I arrived in Naivasha. That was the year 2003. I went to class 8. Yeah, I did my KCPE. Then, I did my KCPE in the year 2007. We were in prison. Then I continued. So once I arrived in Naivasha, I joined the secondary school. I began from Form 1.
Nice.
Yeah. Then I did my KCSE in the year 2011.
Okay.
Yeah. So I passed very well. I had a grade that I was supposed to go to university. But since I was incarcerated, it was hard. Yeah. So I had to look for alternative means of continuing with my studies at the university level. So I had to study online. So I did that one. I started law with the University of London and did well. So you see, now I'm a lawyer.
I mean, look at you.
Yeah.
Look at you. And it's a very good ending towards all those things, because again, like we said, there's a lot that is happening. Yeah. But if you find like the right perspective to what keeps you going and find something that will give you meaning and purpose, because again, Hempson mentioned there's some people who lose their sense of purpose, right?
Yes.
But again, you found that, and now you are a lawyer, which is a really good thing. Yes. But of course, I'm curious to understand. So once you were done with your term, how was that for you? Being told that you're free to go. You can now go back home. What was that like for you, meeting family members, meeting your friends, people you've not seen maybe in a long while? How's that moment for you?
Well, once you are told you are in court, and then the judge tells you that you are free, you are a free man, you can go. Well, you never believe it. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah, because you had just lost hope. You never knew that the day will come when you will be a free man. So for me, well, I could say that I didn't even believe. Is it really true? Is it true that I'm now a free man? So I had to wait to see myself just getting out without handcuffs. Yes. You don't have to believe that, well, I'm free. Yeah. So once I saw it happening, when I was in court, I remember that day when I was in court, they just said, you are a free man, now you can go. So I just looked at everyone. Hey, is it true I'm a free man? Can I walk freely? So I waited for the prison officers to put handcuffs on me. They never did. I entered the courtroom with handcuffs, but I walked out without handcuffs. Yeah. So it was. I was very happy about that one.
Yeah. And we can even see you like from the way you're speaking. When we were discussing about your time in. Of course, it wasn't easy on anyone.
Yes.
But now that we're talking about that moment when you were told that you're free, we can even see that from your face, and you light up and all those things.
Yes.
But at the same time, the thought of going home,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And meeting people, was
Yeah.
that a little bit scary for you, or was it, you know, bittersweet?
Yeah. You know, you never know what you are going to encounter, because you remember 19 years is a long time.
True.
Things have changed.
Things have changed.
Yeah, things have
People have
changed.
changed.
The way you did things, they're not the same again. Yeah. So I was wondering what am I going to encounter once I get outside there. So I had to just wait and see. So once I got out, well, for me it was okay. The encounter, the welcome that I received was okay for me, because they welcomed me and they gave me the support that I needed. Yeah.
I see that. I
Yeah.
see that. All right. Because there's some people who never get that. They never get that. Maybe they have lost their family members. Some have died.
Yeah.
Some have moved, you know, to different places. It's like you have to start afresh, alone, right? Because
Yeah.
there's no one to sort of like help you move about. But it's a good thing to hear that you got the support that you needed, you know, when you got out. All right. So Hempstead again. So the kind of support that is required, that one would require in prison, right? And even after, because like we said, it can be difficult, you know, the whole reintegration process can be difficult for both the family members, you know, and a person who's being released. So, but still in prison, what kind of support would you say is important, should be offered, you know, as frequently as possible?
Okay, so to start with, we've made several strides, and I would say our government has really tried.
True.
James would tell you things are not the same way he found them by the time he was leaving. So the government is doing a good job, because at least this need has been identified and it's being worked on. By allowing organizations like Crime Sipoa to come in, it means they saw the need. And just that the numbers may be so high, because you realize, as I said, our prisons are kind of crowded. And each and every one of these individuals has a certain need, and it may be very difficult to tap every individual need. So the kind of support they need is just kind of that, the psychosocial support. Someone to listen to you. He could tell you that you have issues and you have no one you think listens to you. Someone to help you understand the situation you are in, to show you the options that you have. And I would say, at least our prisons have psychologists. Kenya Prisons has employed psychologists, and they're doing a good job to give them, you know, those psychosocial support. Another thing, of course, it's to try and tackle those causes. Like we've identified one thing is the environment. How can we make that environment better? Well, I'm here, but can I feel I'm still Hempstone when I'm locked here? If we can reduce the number of cases of violence, that would make the environment better. Better bedding, as someone has said. It could make me feel like, okay, I'm at a better place, you know. Also, those individual counseling sessions, which could be a little difficult to do, but they would really help.
Absolutely.
When you want to help a group, you have to help individuals in that group, and entirely you'll find that the group is doing better.
That's true.
So the major thing is just psychosocial support. Because that's what they really need majorly. They don't have, you know, financial needs inside there. But if you can make this person feel good about themselves, accept the situation they are in, and
lose some sense of purpose, like you said earlier on.
Sure.
All right.
Psychosocial support is
very key. And we've seen people who have pre-existing mental you know, illnesses or conditions, and they are incarcerated. I have watched a number of stories and documentaries of persons who have pre-existing mental health conditions, and it is not good. It is not easy for them, because nobody cares, right? I mean, you talked about violence even from prison wardens, some prison wardens, you know, the police officers, the inmates, you know, fellow inmates and all those things. It's not good for them, because nobody really cares about your mental state. We're all here together, right? So that what kind of support should be offered, specifically to those people who have pre-existing mental illnesses? Very briefly.
It's very clear that a practical problem requires a practical solution.
True.
If this is a medical condition, it requires medical treatment. And for you to be treated, it means you have to be diagnosed first. So it's a matter of just directing these people to the right care. That you're exhibiting symptoms that, you know, we feel are not, you know, as per. We can direct you to a psychiatrist, you know. the psychiatrist will do the assessments, make the diagnostics, and then after that, they can direct you to the right care, they can give you treatment.
Yeah.
So that one, there is no other way to go about it.
But,
It's just trying to strengthen our systems such that they can, you know, incorporate such people. Yeah, you've committed a crime, yes, but then if it's clear that you have maybe a certain challenge, can you be treated first?
Yeah.
You know, because some of these conditions are actually the ones that cause these inmates to have, you know, committed the crimes.
In the first place, yeah.
And until you treat this condition, this person is just bound to relapse.
Helping them. That's true. No, I hear you. I completely hear you. All right. So then, as we bring this to a close very quickly, James, first of all, like through your experience, is this what made you want to become a lawyer? So you can help as many people out there? Or is this a passion that you've had for a long time?
Well, it was a passion that I had since I was a child.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and
so
once I got that opportunity, I decided to take it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So then what is it, having gone through this, right? 19 years in, you're out and you're practicing lawyer now. What is it that you'd want to see change in prisons, and especially when it comes to, you know, promoting mental wellness? Very quickly in less than a minute.
Yes. Well, I would say that the thing that the government needs to do in prison is to introduce guidance and counseling in penal facilities. Yeah, if this one is introduced, then I think many prisoners could get support from that one. Even officers, you know, even prison officers who are suffering from mental issues. Yeah, so if the government introduces guidance and counseling in the prisons, this one could be of great help to those people who are inside.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I see that. Thank you very much.
Sure.
And Hemstone, in like literally 10 seconds, what is it that you want to see change right now in prisons to promote mental wellness?
I think I would recommend that the inmates be given more freedom of association. Like, let the families visit this person as much as possible. Let there be introduced things like games that can keep these people really engaged and find the environment very, at least encouraging. And the government can also allow more organizations to come in, because there are so many organizations that are willing to help.
Yeah.
And if they are given the opportunity, they can really make these correctional services much better.
Much better. I hear you. Thank you very much. Both James Asano, who's a legal officer now, and as well as Hemstone Mugala, psychologist, for coming by today and really, really helping us understand ways that we can promote mental wellness in prison. So asante sana for your time. And of course, before we end the show, we had asked you a very simple question, and that is, how can prisons be accommodative to promote mental wellness amongst the inmates? Let's get to hear very quickly what some of you have to say. So Denise says mental health services transition and aftercare, staff training, therapeutic programs, peer support groups, outdoor activities and exercises, education and skill development, family and social support. All right. And then Robert Temba says by having professional psychological counselors, which is important. All right. Thank you very much for that. Then someone else says, this is Demat, says, yes, it is possible. I think one of the considerations to be taken according more visits and time spent with family. There's no correction without love. I think we went through this earlier on. All right, let's get to hear what someone else said. The tweeting bird, yes, we also went through your tweet and you said, let's at least improve the way of life for our fellow brothers and sisters in the jail cells, give them good food and a nice place to sleep. At the very least, all right? And then Mike says, how can inmates have a healthy mind if the conditions behind the block are made to put them in the same condition? We must restructure our correctional facilities. And absolutely agreed. Well, let's keep the conversation going on our socials at NTV Kenya, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Tag me as well at Lubembe_Winnie, and on our YouTube page as well, NTV Kenya. Let's keep the conversation going. But for now, have yourselves a lovely day ahead. I'll see you tomorrow morning, same time, same place. But for now, stay safe. Goodbye.